Hey guys, it's Brian. Before you go ahead and do anything else, make sure you leave a like and subscribe and turn on those notifications if you want to see more content like this in the future. Anyways, on to the video. Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome back to another Yugioh video. And so today we kind of have an interesting match between myself with the Invoked Dogmatika Shaddoll deck versus Prank Kids. And I'm a bit disappointed in myself because of the severity of a misplay that I did during this match, and you'll see in the video why I say I'm disappointed in myself. I was actually on tilt and really mad with myself because of that play, and you'll see why, like I said. But if you guys are enjoying the content, please make sure you leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel a lot. So let's go ahead and get right into the match. And so I have Alistair, Phantasmate, Shaddoll, Red Eyes Black Dragon, and Meltdown. And my opponent starts out with Roxy's, Nib, Fansies, Lamsies, and there can only be one. So at this moment, I'm not really too confident in my hand, so I'm just going to try and force my opponent to waste cards from his hand, just to go ahead and see what they'll do, and that way I can gauge what kind of cards they have in their hand, if it's all just gas or if it's just stuff to stop me. So I go ahead and start out by activating Meltdown, and normally if I have a better hand than this, I would go for the Alistair first, simply because I want to go ahead and force out the draw there instead of on the Meltdown. That way I can continue to play. But in this case, since my hand doesn't really have much going for it, I just start out with the Meltdown, so that way he doesn't know I have a second Alistair. So I go ahead and get the second Alistair from the deck, normal summon, and I go get the invocation, link into Artemis, and then just go into Mechaba, and after that I just go ahead and get the Alistair back to my hand. So my opponent draws Terraforming for turn, which is pretty good for him. Goes ahead and searches his place, and then searches out another Dropsies. I'm sorry, let's just search out Dropsies, not another one. He didn't have one, right? But he goes ahead and normal summons the Roxy's and makes Meow Meow. And he orders it where Meow Meow is going to be Chain Link 1. I'm sorry, Rock is going to be Chain Link 1. And I'm going to go ahead and chain the Phantasma here. That way I can go ahead and get anything out of my deck and see if I can put the Red Eyes Black Dragon back in deck. So unfortunately didn't draw any hand traps. But since I do have Mechaba on board and I do have the Shaddoll, this will come up later on. But I will go ahead and be able to, with this, just to have some form of playing. So he goes ahead and uses Dropsies as Chainlink 2. And when he did that, I immediately just decided to Mechaba that. That way I could stop him from continuing to extend and cutting off his plays. If he would have done it the other way around, I would have cut off the link, so it's better to go ahead and just negate that right away, so I can at least try and put the brakes a little bit. So I go ahead and pitch the Alistair because I do have another one in hand, but in case I do draw a Shaddoll fusion, I can go ahead and use the Wendy and the Hedgehog for the materials, because he most likely will get rid of this. So he goes ahead and fuses into Rocket. And after that, after the summon was good, he goes ahead and uses Fansies to go ahead and put the Lamsies on the board. use the effect of Rocket to go ahead and bring back the Dodo and the Roxys. So he goes ahead and links into the Bow Wow, and then gets another Fansies out from the deck. Goes ahead and gets back Prank and Pandemonium. And after getting the Pandemonium, he goes ahead and uses it right away to go ahead and get the Weather Washer. So he attacks into the Mechaba. I let it go through. Ooh, I don't even try to activate Mechaba ahead of time. And here he goes ahead and just activates Pranks and sets there can only be one. So he goes ahead and shuffles back 3 and gets a place out of the deck, which is actually really good in this situation in case I'm able to get rid of it. So I top deck an Invocation, which is actually a really good draw for me here. So I activate Invocation first to start out, just to see what my opponent does. So he chain links. He changed both of his monsters. That way he gets protection. So they can't be destroyed by battle or card effect at this point. So I go ahead and first off I use the Alistair in Graveyard and the Lampseas. That way I can go ahead and make Purga Trio. Use the Invocation to get back the Alistair. Normal summon Alistair. And get my Invocation back. I link off into Amirage. He lets it go through where he could have used their... Well, he can't use there can only be one because my monsters are all different attributes, so that's one way of making sure that I can't lose at this point, because he wants to make sure that I use it on the point where I have 2 of the same type of monster on board. So I go ahead and make Apcalone, and with Apcalone, I'm going to go ahead and use it on the Pranks because I want to cut off his recursion. So I go ahead and add Beast from Hedgehog and set Squamata. I link away the Phantasmate and the Apcalone to go ahead and make Vertic. I add Infusion just as a follow-up at this point. Gain Beast in Graveyard, and I get an additional draw. And from here I activate Invocation again. This time I'm going to go for Aguitas. Use Verte here. Go into Dragoon. And then I boost Aguitas up by 25 by banishing Mechaba. So I go ahead and go into the battle phase. So I attack with Purga Trio. I want to go ahead and try and do as much damage as I can. So here he goes ahead and draws it, and based on his hand, doesn't look like much, but what's going to come up is that he's going to go ahead and start link climbing. So first off, he links off into access code, which is really bad for me at this point, because he can clear off at least one of my monsters that are of importance to me. But the one card that I don't really mind that he pops is Squamata. But what I do is I immediately after it resolves for the boost, I go ahead and just use Almirage to protect Agoides, and with this, that way I can make sure I have a way of getting rid of the Agoides on the crackback. So he tries to go ahead and use Pandemonium. I immediately go ahead and use Dragoon's Effect to pitch the rush. I didn't set it because I didn't think I would have a free space. And on resolution, I go ahead and try to use rush to go ahead and flip up the Squamata to pop the access code. And here he changed there can only be one. So we're gonna go ahead and see that me and him were actually discussing, and we actually try to get a judge online to confirm this. So if you guys can go ahead and let us know what is the correct ruling in the comments, that would really help out a lot. But from my understanding, I thought it would flip up and then it would, but because it was chain link 2, I wouldn't be able to flip it up. But I want to go ahead and get the correct rulings, but based on what we were able to confirm at the end, it wouldn't flip up because there can only be one is already face up and resolved on the board, or by the time that Squamata will be able to flip. And keep in mind, this really doesn't come up a lot, but he makes a fatal mistake here, where he normal summons the Lamseeds and links off into the Meow Meow, which enables the Agoides to go ahead and pop the access code. And from there, I would pretty much have control of the game. So heading into game 2, I draw Cosmic, Aerial, Phantasmate, Shaddoll Fusion, and Nadir, which is a pretty good hand. My opponent draws Called by the Grave, Droplets, Place, Roxy's, and Instant Fusion, which is a really good hand of its own. So he starts out by going ahead and activating Place. Goes ahead and gets Fansies. Summons Roxy's first. Immediately go into Phantasmate, see if I can get anything. I decided to go ahead and get a Nadir back in deck since I already have one in hand. And from here, he's just going to go ahead and link climb. Getting all the way into the Dodo, which is going to go ahead and immediately tribute itself to go ahead and get back the Place and the Fansies from his graveyard to his hand. Activates Place, discards the Fansies to go ahead and make a token, links off again into another Dodo, and then summons a Dropsies, and then goes into Bow Wow, and then after summoning the Lamses, he goes ahead and sets his Call by the Grave and his Pandemonium. So he draws Thunder Dragon Fusion. In the standby phase, I immediately just try to go ahead. After he chains the Bawa, I immediately use Cosmic to try and snipe out the Pandemonium. Unfortunately for me, I missed. But I did hit Call by the Grave, which is a pretty good hit in its own right, but I was really hoping to go ahead and get the Pandemonium. So I'm going to summon Alistair. Go ahead and search out Invocation. Since I no longer have to fear Call by the Grave, I just go ahead and go into Artemis and activate Invocation, so if he lets it go through, I will be able to go ahead and negate the Pandemonium. He does chain it. And I still make Mechaba because I want to go ahead and force out the plays. And so after he goes ahead and resolves all the materials for the Pandemonium for the Bow Butler, I immediately go ahead and get back the Invocation to go, and then I was so concentrated I almost missed this play, but by forgetting to get back the Alistair. So I go ahead and try to use Shaddoll Fusion here. He tries to go ahead and pop. I immediately just try to negate with Mechaba to go ahead and force him to use it the second time. That way he doesn't hold that over me. Unfortunately, it's going to cost me my Alistair to go ahead and use it for Winda. But in this case, it isn't that bad. So I use Ariel to go ahead and banish the Pandemoniums and a Dodo. That way he doesn't have a way of continuously fusing his cards. So next I go ahead and use Nadir to go ahead and send Entis. And get Ecclesia from my deck to the hand. And I pop the pranks, that way he has to go ahead and use a resource to go ahead and get it back. So I special summon out the Ecclesia. Go ahead and get Fleur-de-Lis. Get rid of the Dropsies and the Roxies. So he has double Thunder Dragon Fusion in his hand at this point, which could allow him to go ahead and get some resources back into his deck for another Battle Butler. So he just makes sure to negate the Winda first before going into any plays. And he's continuing to just go ahead and make the difference in life points with Fansies and Lamsies. I'm sorry, Dropsies and Lamsies. So immediately, as soon as he summons the Dodo, I go ahead and just get Fleur-de-Lis to negate it, stopping him from searching from his deck again. And here he goes into Unicorn to go ahead and not shuffle anything back, just so he can go ahead and continue to extend. and that way he can make access code talker at this point to go ahead and just pop all my cards on field. So heading to game 3, our hands are pretty interesting at this point. So we both have Call by the Grave. I have my Alistair, Aerial, Cosmic, and Schism. And he has his Pandemonium, Place, his Cosmic as well. So I decided to go ahead and do the following. I activate Alistair's effect on normal summon to go ahead and try and get into Mechaba. He goes ahead and uses Phantasme first, and he draws his own Phantasme, another Phantasme off of his Phantasme, but he did draw into the Thunder Dragon fusion. So I go ahead and make the Mechaba here, getting back the Alistair to hand, which is very important here. I decided to go ahead and set 2, which is the Cosmic and the Schism, because that way, if I can negate a monster with Mechaba, I would go ahead and pitch the Aerial, and I have a way of going ahead and making Winda. So he starts out by going into Cosmic, and he actually hits the Schism. I thought about this long and hard, and I decided to let it go. I could have just saved it, but I wouldn't have been able to use it at this point anyway, so I might as well just let it go. He tries to go ahead and activate his place. I immediately Cosmic that. So now he's going into Roxy's. And as soon as he tries to go ahead and use the Roxy's effect, I immediately just use Mechaba to go ahead and get rid of it. So he sets a Call by the Grave and a Thunder Dragon fusion as a bluff. And then he crashes into the Mechaba to avoid me using a Shaddoll fusion off the top deck. So I draw into second Alistair. And from here I go ahead and add my Invocation. Use the Amaraj to go ahead and protect the Mechaba. He tries to go ahead and call by the Alistair. I didn't allow it to go through. So I go ahead and use Invocation to go ahead and get at the Alistair back to hand. And here is where I messed up. I thought I had game based on the math I did, but I did it so quick that I miscounted. And I was actually 100 points short off a game. I was still in a good position, but because I used both of my Alistairs, because of that, if he top decks a monster, I was in a really bad spot. And fortunately for me, he did draw it. So here he just goes ahead and just starts board spamming. Can't really stop it at this point. If I just kept one Alistair, I would have just gone ahead and avoided this. But because he did have Pandemonium in place after that, it's pretty much game over. So he goes ahead and makes Oxys, actually Rocket, burns me for 500 with Lamseys, summon them back, link them away into the Bow Wow, Uses Thunder Dragon fusion to get Battle Butler. And with Battle Butler, he's going to clear the board out. And I just decided to scoop. Anyways, guys, that's the matchup. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and learn from my mistakes. If anything, it only proves that we're all human and we can always improve on ourselves and just pay more attention to detail. But if you happen to enjoy it again, please leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel a lot. And hope to see you guys again next time. See ya.